You felt it. Maybe it was a dull ache low in your back that never fully goes away. Maybe it was 4 teeth trying to grow in a jaw that had no room for them. Maybe it was something you watched a woman you love go through, in more pain than almost any other mammal on Earth experiences giving birth. And somewhere in the middle of all that discomfort, you probably thought the same thing everyone thinks. Why does my own body do this to me? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Evolution never built you. Not really. It built something else, a long time ago, for a completely different world. And then it kept patching that design generation after generation without ever starting over. You are not a finished product. You are a 4 million-year-old renovation project, and the contractor never once tore the place down and rebuilt it from scratch. This is the story of the evolutionary mistakes we still carry around every single day. Not because nature is careless, because nature doesn't actually build things, it edits them. And editing an existing design instead of starting fresh leaves scars. Some of those scars are in your jaw, some are in your spine, some, if you've ever given birth or watched someone give birth, are in the most painful place imaginable. Let's start with the one almost everyone has personally felt. Your jaw was built for a mouth you don't have anymore. Somewhere around 2 million years ago, our ancestors were eating a diet that would break a modern dentist's spirit. Raw roots, tough fibrous plants, uncooked meat torn straight off the bone. That kind of food destroys teeth. It wears them down fast. So evolution's solution was simple. Build extra grinding surface. A third set of molars tucked way in the back, ready to come online in adulthood right when your first molars were starting to wear thin from years of brutal chewing. And it worked. For most of human history, wisdom teeth were not a problem. They were backup equipment for a mouth that needed backup equipment, sitting comfortably in a jaw that was built wide enough to hold them. Then two things happened, and neither of them had anything to do with your teeth. First, our brains started getting bigger, and a bigger brain needs a bigger skull, and something had to give to make room. Second, we discovered cooking and tools, which meant food stopped requiring industrial-grade chewing power. Softer food doesn't build strong jawbone the way tough food does. Over generations, jaws quietly got smaller and faces got flatter. Nobody told the wisdom teeth. The genetic instructions to grow a third molar are still sitting in your DNA today, completely unaware that the jaw they're about to move into has shrunk. So they show up anyway, in their late teens or early 20s, trying to erupt into a space that's already full. That's not a design flaw exactly. It's a scheduling error 4 million years in the making. Your jaw evolved for a new diet. Your third molars never got the memo. Your spine was quadrupedal software running on bipedal hardware. This one's bigger. Roughly 6 or 7 million years ago, our ancestors made a decision that changed everything. They stood up, permanently. And walking upright on 2 legs is honestly one of the most impressive tricks in the animal kingdom. It freed our hands, it let us carry things, use tools, cover long distances efficiently. But it also meant taking a spine that had spent tens of millions of years evolving to support a body hanging horizontally, like a bridge, and forcing it to instead stack vertically, like a tower balanced on a narrow base. That required an S-shaped curve in the lower spine called lumbar lordosis to shift your center of gravity directly over your hips. Without it, you'd be constantly falling forward. But that curve comes at a cost. It creates shearing forces between the vertebrae in your lower back, exactly where most people feel pain first. Researchers studying ancient hominin fossils have found that a specific stress fracture in the lower spine, one that shows up constantly in modern humans and athletes, essentially doesn't exist in our great ape cousins at all. It appears to be a direct side effect of the vertebral shape that bipedalism required. In other words, the same curve that lets you stand up straight and walk for miles without exhausting yourself is also the structural weak point that flares up when you sleep wrong or lift a box badly at 45. It's not that your back is broken, it's that your back is doing an enormous amount of structural improvisation, holding a tower shape with parts that were never optimized for towers in the first place. And then there's childbirth, which might be the cruelest trade-off of them all. In the 1960s, anthropologist Sherwood Washburn gave this problem a name that stuck: the obstetrical dilemma. And once you understand it, you can't unsee it in every ultrasound and every delivery room on Earth. Here's the conflict. Walking upright efficiently requires a narrower pelvis. A wide pelvis makes bipedal walking more mechanically costly. So as our ancestors became better and better walkers, natural selection favored a tighter, more compact pelvic structure. At the exact same time, something else was happening in the human lineage. Our brains were exploding in size, faster than almost any other trait in our evolutionary history, and a bigger brain needs a bigger skull to be born through. So picture the collision. One evolutionary pressure is narrowing the birth canal for efficient walking. Another evolutionary pressure is enlarging the fetal skull for a bigger brain. Both pressures are pushing at the same time in opposite directions through the same anatomical bottleneck. Human childbirth is, almost uniquely among mammals, a tight, difficult, sometimes dangerous dangerous fit between the size of the baby's head and the width of the mother's pelvis. Most other primates give birth with room to spare. Humans give birth threading a needle. Nature's actual workaround, the one that let this whole system survive at all, was almost as strange as the problem itself. Human babies are born unusually early, developmentally speaking, compared to other primates. A newborn chimpanzee arrives with a much larger percentage of its adult brain already formed. Human infants are born with a fraction of that, helpless, unable to hold up their own heads, essentially finishing a huge chunk of their brain development outside the womb instead of inside it. It's the only way to sneak that skull through the bottleneck before it grows too large to fit. The price of our intelligence is that every single one of us was born premature by primate standards, and every mother who gives birth is navigating an anatomical compromise that's been under construction for millions of years. One more, because it's too strange to leave out. Deep in your neck, on both sides, runs a nerve called the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Its job is simple. It connects your brainstem to your voice box just a couple of inches away. You'd assume it takes the short route. It doesn't. It travels all the way down into your chest, loops underneath a major blood vessel near your heart, and then climbs all the way back up your neck to reach a destination it started right next to. It's a detour of several unnecessary inches, for no functional reason at all. Why would evolution do something so obviously inefficient? Because it wasn't designed. It was inherited. Hundreds of millions of years ago, in fish-like ancestors with no neck at all, that nerve took a short, direct, sensible path near the heart and gills. As necks evolved and elongated across millions of generations, the heart gradually migrated down into the chest, and the nerve, already anchored below it, had no choice but to stretch along for the ride, one tiny incremental adjustment at a time. In giraffes, that same nerve now stretches up to 15 feet, looping down the entire length of the neck and back to connect two points that sit inches apart. Evolution never goes back and reroutes the cable. It just makes the existing cable longer. So here's what all four of these stories actually have in common. Evolution isn't an engineer. It's not designing you from a blank page with your best interests in mind. It's more like an apartment that's been continuously renovated for 4 million years by different tenants who never once fully agreed on the floor plan and never tore anything out completely, just built the next addition on top of whatever was already there. Your jaw is running old software on new hardware. Your spine is a bridge trying to be a tower. Your birth canal is the losing side of a tug of war between two things evolution wanted equally badly. Your voice box is wired by a cable that's been getting stretched since before you had a neck. None of this means your body is broken. It means your body is old, layered, improvised, and still somehow remarkably functional, despite carrying every one of these compromises at once. Next time your jaw aches or your lower back locks up after a long day, or you hear the phrase narrow pelvis, big head, and wince a little, you're not experiencing a malfunction. You're feeling the fingerprints of a 4 million year old renovation still being lived in by you right now.